Hello, everybody. Let's have a mystical conversation, the kind where we lose ourselves in the wonders of divine mysteries, share dreams from the other side, intuitive nudgings, and soul mission yearnings. I'm Rev Sue Frederick, a Unity minister, master numerologist, and author of several books, including the Angel Up book series and the newly revised Sacred Numerology Workbook, second edition. Our guest today for this mystical conversation is an extraordinary soul, Wendy Kennedy. She is a prominent channel and spiritual teacher. She has used her gifts and abilities to communicate with higher dimensional beings for the past 30 years, assisting others in recognizing and releasing their patterns and limiting beliefs to create the foundation for a life filled with greater health, abundance, love, and joy. In addition to bringing through the wisdom of her guides, Wendy also utilizes the language of light and galactic light codes, the written form of the language of light, to add others in aligning to higher frequencies and tapping into their innate power. Wendy lectures and channels throughout the US and internationally. She was one of the six channels featured in the movie and the book Tuning In, Spirit Channelers in America. She is a featured guest on Gaia TV series Interview with Extra Dimensionals, Open Minds with Regina Meredith, and Into the Vortex with Jimmy Church. Her work can also be found in the book The Great Human Potential, Walking in One's Own Light, which is now available in 7 languages. Oh my gosh, I am so excited to welcome Wendy. All right, so Wendy, my first question for you, by the way, I met you in 2024, and not only am I a huge fan of your channeling, but your energy is just so beautiful and high frequency to be around. So it was amazing to stand beside you in person and really feel that. So thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, you are very kind. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for having me here. I appreciate it.
Well, I think my first question is I'm very fascinated by the fact that you started channeling 30 years ago. And, back then, I mean, it was hard talking about meditation in the world. I was doing a lot of meditation and people would kind of look at me like, I remember one guy said to me, well, if meditation is solving the problem, what is your problem? And that was kind of the level of consciousness that I was running into. So tell us how you found your channeling. What were you studying spiritually? What opened you to that 30 years ago?
Yeah, I think as a child, I was always drawn to the paranormal and to UFOs and things like that. So I'd always read books and watch TV programs on that kind of thing. So I was always open to that. But, I was in my early 20s and I was studying theater and film at school. And so, that back in
Yeah.
the late 80s, early 90s, was one of the few places where you could go to really connect with the body and to learn about yoga and meditation, because I grew up in Kansas and I went to the University of Kansas. So it
Love
was
that.
such an amazing place for me to get in tune with that and to really look at, what motivates us,
Mhm.
especially from the perspective of an actor. Why are you doing this? What's driving you? And I think that certainly carries over into the work that I do today because it's like, well, what fear program is underneath all of that? What's driving us to do the things that we do? So I was doing a lot of inner work, and then I was also studying meditation. I went to the Center for Self Realization and studied meditation on one of their offshoots. And along the way, as I was doing work on myself, I started having visions and I didn't really know what they were. And so I started doing some research and I thought maybe they were associated with the building that I was living in. It was an old apartment complex in Chicago. And I came across books on channeling in the library and I was like, well, what is this? I've never seen this before. I don't really know what this is. And somehow I knew it was what I was supposed to be doing. There was such a deep calling within me. And so I bought a couple books on the topic. And one of those was Sanaya Roman's book, Opening to Channel, which is still, I think, an amazing book today. She was one of the few people at the time who was channeling, Barbara Marciniak, Jane Roberts.
Yeah.
There really weren't a lot of people out there.
Mhm.
And so I started doing some of the exercises and I would have a visceral response. My eyes would flutter and water and my hands would tingle, but I was trying to channel verbally and it wasn't happening. And I would, come back to it periodically and then put it aside and come back. And I think about over the course of a year, 9 months to a year, one day I finally sat down and I thought, I need to have a pen and paper. And I started doing automatic writing and it
Oh,
kind of flowed from there.
yeah. I'm a
So,
big fan of that myself as the first way to channel in stuff. Yeah, that's awesome.
and I still do that today for myself because I think it's much easier for us to retain the information. We have something we can go back and look at again. So, yeah, I'm with you on that. It's a great way to open up.
So then you sort of, what were your spiritual beliefs at that time? I guess that's really the question because things were coming through you. And how soon were you aware that it was the Pleiadians, what you call the P's, or the Lemurians? Talk about that phase of it.
Yeah, so I didn't come from a particularly strong religious background.
Mhm.
My parents were of two different religious faiths, and even though they were both Christian back in that day, that just was unheard of. So, it's not like we went to church and everything. Um, so with the opening, it just because I had such an interest in UFOs and metaphysics, it just seemed like a natural course. So I didn't have any strong beliefs to really dismantle, I suppose. That's one way to
That's
say
good.
that.
Yeah.
And, at the very beginning, it was my own angelic guides who came in,
Mhm.
and that's how they presented themselves to me. So I think typically what happens for people is there may be a guide who shows up, but that's not the guide they end up working with. They're the one to kind of help them to open, make some introductions, and then they head on. So occasionally that guide will still show up today just to say hello. They're not really working with me. They just want me to know that they're there and that they love me and all those wonderful things. Um, but I started working with a lot of galactics at the beginning, a lot of beings from Arcturus, some from Sirius. And it took me about a year from the time that I started doing the automatic writing to the time that I was channeling verbally. I was hearing the words well in advance, and they were telling me, you need to put the pen and paper down and just try to speak. So once I did that, that's when the ninth dimensional Pleiadian collective came in because they work with tone and sound. And when I channel them, their dialect is different than my own. And it's really not any one particular dialect, it's open vowels where they can modulate the frequency. So we get a healing as we're hearing
Mhm.
the information. And, they've kind of taken point from there, but I have a whole huge pantheon of beings in the background from different star systems. And it really just depends on what I want to know about, what
Mhm.
information I'm seeking, who's the authority in that area. That's who shows up for me when I work personally. But when I work publicly, the Pleiadians take point, and then everybody else is kind of in the background, and the Pleiadians are kind of organizing all of that.
So do you start your channeling by asking a question and then we see who shows up, or how do you start?
Yeah, so I set an intention about
Mhm.
what I want, and I ask, for beings of the highest frequencies of light and love. My guides were really specific with me because in terms of teaching me how to ask questions. Because if I say, well, what do I need to know? They're like, well, there's a lot you need to
Right.
know. And, they want to make sure they're not interfering with my life path.
Mhm.
So they want to honor my own journey and they want to wait till I'm ready for information. They don't want to give me information that's going to shock me or move me in a way that wasn't my original path if they hadn't interacted with me. So, um, they always want me to ask a question because when I ask a question, they know I'm ready for the information.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. It's funny. I always teach that the guides, people will say, things like, well, when is my death date? When am I going to die? And I'll say, the guides don't want you to know that. They're not going to answer that question because that takes away the purpose of your life is to be in the moment, to have it unfold, to find your love, your light. And, so I love it that you say, you have to ask the question that they feel that you're also ready to hear the answer to.
Right. And
And,
it's funny you say that because that is the one question they won't answer. They won't answer about myself or about anyone else
I
because they
love
want us
that.
to hold the highest vision for them that they have the richest life, the fullest life that they can possibly have.
Well, you're validating exactly what I tell my clients too, that it's like, that's not what you need to know. That's not what they're going to answer. I
Yep.
promise you. But I also want to talk briefly about your birth path in my numerology work because I was so thrilled when you sent it to me. You went to my website and input your date of birth in my soul path calculator, and it came back as the perfect birth path for a channeling beautiful healer. It's a Libra double 11 master soul journey. So, as you know, Libra is the light of truth and beauty. Look at you. That's so perfect. And then the double 11 is a pure channel to the highest realms and very sacred. Also, difficult because that sensitivity that you own, I mean, it must be hard to stay grounded sometimes, or maybe early in your childhood you figured out how to stay grounded. Do you want to talk about that?
I think when I started to open up, um, when I was in my mid 20s, that's when it was the hardest to stay grounded. And, it's still something that I have to be conscious of.
Yeah.
I'm better at recognizing when I'm not grounded now. But I think for people who are particularly empathic, and I would certainly put myself in that group, um, and I don't think we realize that we do that, by the way,
Right.
um, until that energy isn't there. And we're like, oh, I can't make that energetic connection. And I didn't realize I was reaching out energetically and getting all this information.
Mhm.
But I think for those of us that are particularly sensitive, right now, the most important thing for us to do is make sure we're grounded and really strengthen holding our own resonance so that we're not knocked off course by everybody else's stuff.
One of the things I love about your work is that your messages combine these mystical concepts with really very practical things about how we're supposed to get through these lifetimes we're in. You talk about releasing patterns from other lives and how we do that, all kinds of stuff. Um, would you like to talk about that at all? I mean, when people say, gee, I had a past lifetime where this happened and I'm still holding on to that, like, what is your feeling or philosophy about all that?
Sure. So my guide spent a lot of time talking about this because it's such a big issue for us. So all of our power that we hold is in this now moment. And before we incarnate, we kind of create a blueprint of the things that we want to experience. And we will take records from other lifetimes and we'll kind of pull those out and we'll have patterns from the family dynamic, things that maybe our parents or our grandparents or even great grandparents have been holding on to. And so those records will kind of keep them close by, and then we'll partition off everything else. And that's just so that we have a point of focus so that we can tap into those energies again, so that we can find the frequency, the challenge energy, if you will, and to see if we can find the solution energy. So the whole point of being here on earth was integration, the releasing of judgment, our polarity to one extreme or the other. We knew who we were, we descended in frequency, and then we thought, well, wouldn't it be interesting if we could make our way back out? So that's
Wow.
what we're doing. And
Love that.
the setup for the game requires that, we've got to have some patterns and frequencies. And so this is one of the ways that we do it. And as we go through our life and we experience a frequency, maybe it's, I'm not safe. Well, you probably have experienced some level of persecution in another life. Your family members probably have that running in their own energetic field. So, holographically, it's stored in your energetic field. And as you experience it here and now, it vibrates and it begins to um, amplify those records. The resonance of the records is the same
Mhm.
and they begin to vibrate. And so, on a scale of 1 to 10, what you might be experiencing here and now is maybe a 2 or a 3. And then those records start to vibrate, and then it's a 5 or a 6. So, if you think about a room full of tuning forks and you strike a note of C, every other C tuning fork in there is going to start to vibrate, and the tone's going to get louder.
Wow.
So that's how it happens for us, so that we can see it, we recognize it because, oh, this is getting louder. I feel it. It's not so comfortable. And then, everything that we experience shows us how we're either expressing or
Mhm.
suppressing our divine light.
Mm.
So when we feel that discomfort, it's showing us that there's more divine light to experience. And we just have to move to a new frequency. It's just an
Love
expression of
that.
where we were expressing that energy. By the time we get that reflection, we're already on to the next now moment. So
Well, I love that. I mean, I love that you even talk about how we came here for the light and dark, for that whole interplay to choose, you know. I think that's certainly something that, the angels have told me is that there has to be this light and dark contrast here. It's how we grow. Does that kind of align with what you know or what you hear?
exactly. Without the dark, we can't fully appreciate the light.
Yeah.
It's a dualistic universe. That's why
Right.
we've set it up that way. So we have a better understanding because we can compare and contrast frequencies.
Mhm.
And what the guides say about lower energy is that it's a valid choice. Somebody who's off doing some things that are less than savory, less than
Yeah.
less than the highest expression,
Hmm.
it's a valid exploration of frequency because it teaches us what the
Hmm.
opposite experience really is. And that's part of what they teach in terms of letting go of judgment. It's not making that wrong and wanting to suppress it and extinguish it, but acknowledging it's valid to be there. But all of your power lies in your alignment with frequency. So are you going to stay in a loop of judgment and alignment with that energy
Right.
and continue to manifest it? Or are you going to acknowledge that it's a valid frequency and there's another one that you want to move to?
I love that so much for so many reasons. And one of them is, of course, the state of our world today, judgment, judgment, conflict, conflict. And, I'm always teaching, hey, it's about letting your light overcome the darkness. And yet people really struggle with this idea of good and evil. It's kind of given to us in religious dogma, that I have to really be against anything that's not what I think of as light. I don't feel that way, but I see that in the world. And also, that the idea that there are good and bad players on purpose, that the bad players are part of the whole soul plan here. And I'm going to ask you to do some channeling about our world today, and we'll get to that in a moment because I can't wait to hear what your people say about that. But the other thing is when people have lost a loved one, because I work with so many grieving people, and especially if perhaps it was at the hand of a bad player, a child who crossed young because someone handed them a drug that they overdosed on, or even a car accident from a drunk driver, and that whole struggle with light and dark and good and evil. I'm just wondering what you've learned in your journey, your amazing spiritual studies, your guides, about, first of all, connecting to those departed spirits, and then, second of all, how they should navigate that idea of the good and the bad player when they are definitely hurt and wounded by it.
Yeah. So, we're always connected. We're never disconnected from souls that have crossed over. Their form may change, their perspective of reality may change, but the way the guides describe it to me is that they often carry that persona back so that we can relate and have that sense of connection with them.
Mhm.
But they're always present. It's impossible because we are part of source energy. We are all that is to ever be separate from anyone or anything. It's just the kind of filters that we put up, the partitions that
Mhm.
we set up for ourselves so we can have this experience where we have a sense of disconnection from source energy, where we can't see all things at once, so that we can play under the illusion of lack and limitation and separation. But when we come back to that heart centered space, it's our operating system to access multidimensional information.
I
To
love
play
that.
down in 3D in the illusion of separation, we have the ego mind where all that judgment is stored. That allows us to perceive things from a limited vantage point, that we're separate. But when we come back to that heart center, we can access multidimensional information. And it doesn't matter whether you want to connect with source,
Mhm.
someone who's departed, your guides, the Akashic records. The process is the same.
Mhm.
It's always coming back to this
To the
heart centered
heart.
space.
I love
And
that.
then the frequency that you tap into is slightly different, but the process is the same.
I love that so much because I love that everything you say is exactly what I've kind of learned in my own way, talking to angels and my departed husband and all these different beings. And you've learned it from your journey and from the P's and the Lemurians and all of this. It really brings together this cohesive idea that it doesn't matter who we believe in, who we're connecting to. Once we get to that heart center, that unconditional love, and that's kind of how I define the God source as this source of unconditional love, that the minute we come back to that, that's when the channel is so pure and so open. Tell me what you feel about that.
About
Do
coming
you,
back to
do you believe that that's how we define the God source as pure unconditional love?
it's an aspect
Oh,
of
tell me
source
more.
because source is all things.
Ah,
So
yes.
even when, you've got someone doing, a dastardly deed, that's still an expression of source energy.
Yeah,
But the highest expression of it is, yes, that love frequency, that unconditional aspect of it. But
yeah.
all the range of experiences and emotions and everything that we have is part of source energy, part of
I
source
love
creation.
that you say that because that really resonates as true. It's not just the love, it's the whole light and dark. That's all part of God. Of course, that's true. Brilliant.
And I think it's, you talk about getting caught in that loop of good and evil
Right,
and how do you I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. We want to fight that thing that we don't like.
right,
And that
right.
fight, side A against side B, is just a lower level of consciousness. When you understand how reality is really manifest through the frequencies that you emit, if you're in that fight or struggle, you're just going to get more fight and struggle. So what we're learning right now and what we're learning to embody and manifest is a new way of being, which is working on the way that we are energetically
Mhm,
and not fighting the thing that we don't want, but aligning with, and you could say standing up for,
mhm.
the thing that we do want. What do we want to see in the world? Are we holding the frequencies that that thing represents? And that's a new way of being.
I was
And
just going to say that's a huge shift for humanity to make, and you can see how much humanity is struggling with that now.
yeah. And I think on the individual level, as we kind of play with this and we kind of play around with how we manifest things, we see Oh, okay. This really does work. When I align with
Yes.
this and I let go of my anger and my frustration and
Yes.
my judgment over here,
Yes.
I feel lighter. I am in flow and I can bring more light and joy and kindness to everything that I do.
Yes.
And, you were asking about people who have had, say, a child who's died at an early age. I think it's really important, and the guides stress this a lot,
Mhm.
is that every death, no matter at what point in life, is a soul choice.
Yes, I
And
agree.
how the soul dies is often for those who are left behind. They will choose a way that will
Yes.
impact those that are left to set them up for the potential for their highest soul growth.
I'm so glad you're saying this because this is what I have talked to my people about exactly that there are no accidents, And I'll even have clients come to me who say, well, another psychic told me that my son's death was an accident. And I'll go, no, how could an exit point ever be an accident? There is a divine order to this plan, even if we can't see it. So I love that you have that teaching, that you share that. I feel like it's one of the greatest healing conversations we can have with anyone who's grieving is to say, let's shift up into that bigger understanding of the God source as being light and dark, and there's a soul plan behind all of these events. And Wendy, that's the first thing that my husband taught me when he crossed. I was 30 years old. He had died of colon cancer, and we were healthy mountain climbing people. And he was really sick for a year, and we fought it. We did everything we could. I thought the lesson was overcoming death, and that was my big spiritual wake-up call. No, Sue, the lesson is surrender to higher consciousness. And so when he crossed, he took me on a journey through the higher realms to show me this divine order that we're talking about, that there are no accidents, that his death was not an accident or a tragedy, and he even chose that illness for a certain reason. And that has been my great spiritual awakening in this lifetime. Um, so I don't know why I went off in that tangent,
No.
but I just wanted to share that with you. It's so
How
in
beautiful.
alignment with what you're teaching. So do you feel like you'd like to channel for us today?
Sure. Sure. Let me get out
So
of the
how do we
way.
do that now?
So I'm just going to get out of the way and let the guides come in. It really just takes a second for them to show up,
Okay.
and we'll see where we go.
Okay.
I guess hello, dears. This is the Ninth Dimensional Pleiadian Collective, and it is a pleasure and an honor to have the opportunity to connect with you. So, we think for many of you, there's a lot of worry, there's a lot of extra mental activity, and that's what we want to talk about here at the very beginning. There's a lot of worry and concern about the future, and we want to bring you back to the now. Because all of your power lies in this now moment, and your future moments are constructed out of the now, the frequencies that you're holding. And so, as you come back to this empowered now moment, you will start to craft a different version of reality for yourself. Now, the collective may have challenges. The collective may need some big reflections so that they can see that they're carrying some programs of lack, limitation, and separation. But that doesn't mean that you have to suffer in the midst of the chaos that's currently going on. You can stand in peace, harmony, balance, joy, passion, excitement, love, and be the way shower for those that are struggling. As you enter a room, they'll say, "Ooh, what is she doing over there? She's got some of this lovely energy. I'd like to access some of that for myself." And so you will inspire others through your state of being as you hold this higher resonance, even though things may seem a bit chaotic. 2026 is going to be an intense year because there's a lot of shifting, a lot of changing that is going on very, very, very rapidly, and a lot of patterns that can be viewed because of this accelerated rate of perception. Experience of reality is heightened. And so now you see the patterns because they're repeating faster and faster and faster, and you can make adjustments.
Wow. Um, Anything you'd like to tell us about the state of the world in the future, or are we able to know that or not?
Well, we're actually quite hopeful about it. A lot of you will talk about ascension, you'll talk about um, reaching higher realms, and from our vantage point, it's a done deal. It's already happened, and you're just kind of figuring your way out in this moment of how
Mhm.
to manifest it, which path you're going to walk to get to the destination. There is part
Mhm.
of you that's already there. And again, do not dismiss the power of each and every individual. A lot of times you like to give your power away to those that are at the head of governments, institutions, and you really hold all the cards. And we mean this literally and figuratively. So it's like a house of cards. There are those at the top who you've given your power to. Those, with a house of cards, you've got a broad base, and it goes up and up and up, and until there are one or two cards at the top. Well, when you pull the cards out at the bottom, the whole thing comes crumbling down. That's you taking your power back. That's you deciding how you want to feel in any given moment. One of the things that's really important for you all to recognize is, are you generating the frequencies that you want, or are you responding to how you're being conditioned to feel? What do we mean by that? So, your current reality, and you can see this very easily in marketing and advertising and even in your news, the way that information is presented is to elicit a specific response. And generally, it's a fear based response that they're attempting to elicit, because then you can be controlled and manipulated to respond and act in a particular way. This has been going on for decades. This is nothing new to you all. But when you decide how you want to feel first, and this is truly how reality is manifest, most of you aren't in the driver's seat with that. You're kind of running on autopilot out of the subconscious mind,
Mhm.
but you pulse out frequency, and the universe co-creates with you. It brings back form that holds the frequency that you are pulsing out. You recognize that frequency, you engage with it, and you have an experience, and it reinforces the original energy that you were holding. When you give your power away, you aren't choosing a frequency to start with. You're just subconsciously putting out subtle waves based on old belief systems. And then you are having an external experience, and then that just reinforces an old belief. So you can also think about, I'll be happy when this happens or that happens. No, to manifest reality, you have to decide how you want to feel now. I'm happy now. I'm emanating that frequency now, and the universe will reflect opportunities for more of that energy expression. Make sense?
That's beautiful. So what's an everyday practice or something that everyday people can do to help get that frequency that you're talking about?
So, we do recommend that you have a practice, and practices don't have to be long and arduous. They're just simple check ins. So, when you wake up in the morning before your feet hit the floor, pick a frequency or two that you want to explore for the day, or we might recommend that you do several days in a row, and not too many frequencies, because this is subtle energy that you're working with. And if you've got too many things that you're trying to do, you'll miss the subtle energy. All right. So just start with one and imagine what that would feel like in your body. You can say, I am this thing, or I wonder what it would feel like to be this thing.
Mhm.
Sometimes the imagination statement is easier for you all, because if you say, I am happy or I am healthy, there may be part of the ego mind that gets involved and says, well, no, I'm not. This is going on and this is going on. But if you say, I wonder what it would feel like to be, the ego isn't triggered. And both statements put you in alignment with the frequency and emanating that frequency.
Mm,
And then as you go throughout your day, check in. Am I still in alignment with that energy? Am I feeling that? Oh, nope, not so much. And then recalibrate.
I love
Imagine
that.
connecting with that energy again.
So, for example, I could say, I wonder what it would feel like to feel 20 years old in my body again and be completely happy with the world around me.
Well, be careful about that statement, because you might have some beliefs about what it was like at 20 years old that you don't
Oh,
remember. There
oh,
may have been fear or uncertainty about your journey.
very good.
So, what's specific frequencies about being youthful do you want?
Energy and joy.
There you go. All right. So, what would it feel like to feel energy running, infinite energy running through my body? What would
Mm,
it feel like to have infinite joy?
yes. No old lady pain in my body, for one thing. So that's part of what I would ask for is that higher frequency of physical joy and vibrancy. And then also I would ask for the frequency of not seeing really the pain and struggle of the world and really focusing on the love. That would be my request.
Be conscious of even those subtle statements. I don't want to see these things.
Ah, yes.
There's
Makes
a
sense.
reason that is in your statement because there is a part of you that wants to be separate from that.
Oh, good.
The minute you want to be separate from something is when the universe says, well, we're trying to bring you back into wholeness, so you need a mirror for that. That desire, even though subtle, will keep you in a loop and manifesting it until you
Oh,
say, it's a valid exploration. Great. It's over
this
there. Fabulous.
this is very important. I'm really glad you're showing us this because I think as humans, we really do tend to say, here's what I don't want, and then, okay, here's what I do want. So you're really showing us that that's not really serving us, and I'm grateful for that advice.
Well, it's subtle. It's subtle. And these subtleties make a difference in the process of manifestation. So sometimes if you know what the thing you don't like is, that's great. It gives you a new point of focus, but be conscious. Are you still holding judgment about that thing?
That's
Or, oh, I've explored that. That was interesting. I learned this from that. I learned that from that. Now let's go try this.
And that's so good looking at the whole world right now, too. I mean, to not say, okay, I'm not going to look at that conflict because, like, as you're saying, that's part of the whole right now. And so we have to go ahead.
Well, when you look at that and you look at the conflict in the whole, what is happening to you?
Mm,
What judgments get triggered within you? What angers, what fears, what worries get triggered in you? That's the gold. When you look at the collective and you can use them as a reflection to see the subconscious programs that may be running in your own energetic field, use that. People are uncaring or unkind. Well, where are you doing that to you? Where are you not caring and kind to yourself? Is your inner critic really active? Are you judging your shape, your intelligence, your bank account? Where are you not being that higher version that you're seeing reflected back in the world?
I
And
love
then
this.
start to embody that.
Just
How can I
beautiful.
how can I be kinder to me? We want to talk about health very briefly here.
Hmm.
Um, there's so much conditioning around health. You've got a toxic environment at every level, and that's okay because that shows you where you've been holding on to these points of separation. You're just moving to more connection. So if you've got a chronic illness, the idea is that you just keep installing the idea of, I'm well. It's already happened. I'm well. I'm just realigning my energy, my frequency with that state of being. There's nothing that has to be fixed. You don't have to go in and root around and figure out every little thing in your life that is out of balance. Just keep setting that intention, and anything that needs to be addressed will pop up as your current reality. And if you don't know where to start, start with what's in your face. What is getting triggered and activated in you, either by the collective or your worries or your imbalances. Your body gives you great cues. And if that's the case for your body, you can ask it, what cue are you giving me? Is there something I need to know? Oh, I've been very harsh on myself with my self talk. So you're going to install a new program, a new statement for yourself.
This is so great. Thank you so much. You have just now given me a complete reading and understanding of what's going on, channeling. It's interesting because I think your video just froze. That's kind of a perfect way to say, are you back with us, Wendy?
We're here, dear.
Oh gosh, I just want to say this has been so profound, and it's just even been a very strong personal message and healing for me. And I know the listeners will feel that beautiful frequency of healing and love. This has been so great. And Wendy, you're going to be at the LA Life Expo, is that correct?
Yes, so before it's still the piece here. So we just want to say goodbye and then we'll let Wendy speak.
Oh,
So
okay, great.
we want you all to know that you have a tremendous amount of support around you. You all have support teams on the other side. They're working tirelessly to be of service to you to help put information in your path until you get it or you no longer want it. So please know that. You can always call on us. So you don't need Wendy. And until we hear from you, we are around. We are watching, we're waiting, we're sending much love, well wishes, and um, know that you are loved and that you are seen. Aye. So
Oh
they're the
my
bees.
God, Wendy, that was so gorgeous. I mean, that was a personal healing as well as for all the listeners and everything. I am so grateful. This has been phenomenal. And I guess tell everybody where you're going to be in LA soon so that they can meet with you in person, which
Oh, so
is,
that's amazing to hear. Yes, so I will be out at the Conscious Life Expo, and that is February 20th, 21st, and 22nd for the main event. That's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I will be on a panel on Saturday morning, and then Sunday is the keynote where it'll be channeled. The Pleiadians are going to be talking about a little bit of the information that we covered today, the process of manifestation and
yeah.
manifesting new realities. And then on Monday, I'm doing a post conference workshop where we're going to be working with the guides again and sharing more information on, connecting with some of the principles, some of the galactic beings that who support us. Have kind of walked that path, connecting with that energy and working on self love and trust, mastery, all those good things. So that is on that Monday at 5 p.m.
And this is happening in Los Angeles. Do they also stream it live? Do you know?
They do not.
Mm.
I don't think. I'm getting everything confused, but no, I think this one is just an in-person only.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
how can people find you? Give us your website.
Yes, so you can find me over at higher frequencies, that's plural, .net. And we've got different kinds of things going on there, group sessions every month, our monthly membership, and all that you'll find over on higherfrequencies.net.
Well, I tell you, I've done a lot of interviews, Wendy, and you are extraordinary. I've never really had this kind of experience before where I have felt really healed and transformed by the conversation. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here and be able to connect with everybody.
Many blessings.
To you as well.